Hey guys, SimCoder here, and today we'll be doing the edit profile actions that any app should have. So we'll learn how to edit the name, edit the profile image, which is really important, and we'll be using Firebase storage for this. So yeah, it should be interesting, it should be a fast one, but an important one, because we'll learn how to use storage with this project. So yeah, let's do it. If the video is going a little too slow for you, then feel free to change the speed of the video in the video settings. Okay, so here we are. We have our development environment open, and before getting on with the code, we have to do a couple of things. The first and most important one is that we must install both an image picker, which will allow us to pick an image in order to populate our profile image and our banner image. And we are also going to use Firebase storage, and because of that, we must install Firebase storage as well. But before getting on with it, first of all, remember that in my GitHub, we have the repository for this project, and within it, you have a branch dedicated to each and every single lesson. So if you have any problems, please do check it out. And moving on to Firebase, you can see that we have storage in here. So we are going to click it, and I'm going to show you how everything will be structured. If it is your first time opening it, then it will probably ask you to define a location and the rules for storage. So just click next, and for the rules, make sure it is on test mode, and you shouldn't have any issues with it. Okay, so in here we can see our storage file structure, and it is already populated so that I can show you how it will work exactly. So as you can see, you'll have a folder, and this works just like a random folder in your operating system like Windows or Linux. It is exactly the same. You have folders, so in this case we have the folder user, which will contain a profile folder, which will be dedicated to the banner and the profile image, and inside it, it will have the ID of the user that has uploaded a profile and a banner image, and inside it we'll have a banner and a profile image. Okay, so this is how it will work, and the cool thing about Firebase storage is that we can retrieve a URL which will give us direct access to it. If you come in here, I believe you'll see that we have a URL in here, and it is this URL which we'll use in the future in order to get it. And you can actually open it up in here, and as you can see, it appears with the file structure that I've just told you. Okay, so then in the Firestore, and I can show you right now how it will look, we'll have another collection called users, and these users will be created when the user signs up, and then it will just get updated throughout time. So the collection users will contain documents of the user's ID that just created the account, obviously, and inside it we'll have, for now, a banner image URL, a name, and a profile image URL. So it is really simple, but we must make sure that we create it at the time of sign up, otherwise it will give problems when we try to update, and if this document doesn't exist, then it will give an error. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so now after this, we are going to try and install the packages that we'll be needing for this lesson. The first of which is the Firebase storage. Obviously, when we upload pictures, we must have a package which will handle that for us. In this case, it is Firebase storage. So let's come into our VS Code, go into PubSec, and in the dependencies, simply add the Firebase storage. Then we'll need an image picker, which will allow the user to, as the name implies, pick an image from the gallery or take a picture, and this is done using image picker. So grab the latest version of both of them and paste them in the PubSec. Now it will start running pubget automatically, so you don't need to worry about anything. Give it some time, it will take a couple of seconds. So now what we are going to do is go into the service of service, better yet. Okay, and we are here because, because we hadn't created the user in our Firestore database, we must create it now. So I will ask you to delete all the accounts that you have I will ask you to make sure your database is clean, and we are going to create an instance of the user in our Firebase Firestore database. But before that, and that's done in the sign up, we have to handle one small bug that is in here. And that's with this user. It shouldn't be this user. It has to be user credential. And this is because this await will return a user credential, and you can't parse it. It won't work that well. So that's how we have to do it. Let's add the parentheses there. Okay, let's do it like this. As by doing this, it will work. Otherwise, it won't. It will return null or something like that. I'm not sure why. It should work, but for some reason, it isn't wanting to work with us. Okay, so this user credential contains a user inside it. So we are easily able to get the user as we did before. Simply add user.user. Okay, that's it. Now, in order to add the user to the database, it is really quite simple. What we are going to do is say await Firestore, Firebase Firestore, better yet, dot instance. Don't forget to auto import if need be. Then you're going to go into the line below and add a collection. In this case, the collection path will be just users. That's the collection that will contain every single user, or as the analogy that I used in the first lesson, it is the box that contains all of the papers, which each paper contains a user. Okay. Now we have the document, which will be user.user, because we are now using a user credential instead of just the plain object user, and user.user.uid. Okay, and then finally we are going to set this to something. Well, at this primary part, we don't have a lot of information to go with. So I'm going to just populate something so that we can actually gain access to the user object. So in this case, I'm going to say that the name is equal to email. And I'm going to say that the email is equal to email. Well, obviously the name of the user won't be email, but this is just an easy way to get something into the database so that we are sure that the username gets populated. Okay, so now by saving it, we are going to rerun the project and come in here and simply say test@gmail.com 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, don't forget to delete every single account that you have in your database. You will need to rerun the registration for each one of them. Sign up, and okay, it went through. So let's come into our database and see if everything checks out. And okay, so as you can see, the user gets created and everything is working nicely. But it is giving some warnings in here. Oh, okay, the cast is unnecessary, so we are going to remove this. It means that, well, the create user already retrieves the create user credential, so we don't need to parse it into anything. That's it. So now let's save it, and we are now able to create our edit page. So let's close that up, and everything is working nicely. But it is giving some warnings in here. Oh, okay, the cast is unnecessary, so we are going to remove this. It means that, well, the create user already retrieves the create user credential, so we don't need to parse it into anything. That's it. So now let's save it. Come into the profile and add a new file called edit. Okay, so in here we are going to type in stateful widget, which will allow us to use the snippet and auto build the boilerplate code for the stateful widget. It is going to be called edit, obviously, and we are going to add the material package up top, so import in P, and it will auto import it if you are using the snippet package extension that I've told you about in the first lesson. Okay, so now that we have our edit page, we are going to simply add some text in here just so that I can show you how it works. So text ASD, something like that. Now coming into home, we are going to add the button which will allow us to go into the edit page. So let's copy the list title for the profile and double it up. So now it will be edit, and the text will be edit. This will later on pass on to the profile page, but for now, let's leave it like this as it is easier. Then in the wrapper, we must add yet another route, which in this case will be for the edit page. So edit, and don't forget to auto-import the package. There we go. Now we can close up the wrapper, we can close up home, and we can focus on edit. Let's come in here and go into this page. As we can see, we have ASD showing up top. Okay, so now let's think about what we need. We'll firstly need a scaffold. Scaffold widget, again, is one that gives us a lot of options and makes it easy to build a nice looking widget. So in this case, we'll need a body which will contain a container. And this container will have a padding. We make a padding so that the edges of the objects don't touch the sides of the phone, which looks terrible. So then it will be edge insets symmetric, because it will be symmetrical for the vertical and horizontal. So both sides and top and bottom will have the same spacing correspondingly. So now it will have a padding of 20 vertically, and for the horizontal it will be 50. Let's say it like that. Okay, let's collapse this. And then it will have a child, which will be a form. So new form, open that up. And now we are going to say that the child of the form will be a column. And this column can have children. And by having an array of childs, we can have multiple widgets inside it, just like we did for the authentication, for example. And now if you save it, you'll see an empty widget. Okay, so what do we need now? We need, first of all, a text form field for the user's name. So in this case, we have to do onChanged val arrow set state, because we are going to change the state, obviously. And this is how we can alter variables within a stateful widget. So set state name equals to val. But this name doesn't exist yet. So that's one thing that we must create right now. And in here, it isn't arrow. You just have to open up curly brackets. Sorry about that. Now, grab the name, go up top, and simply create it here. So remember, anytime the on state gets altered, or better yet, anytime the text form field gets altered, the user inputs a string, removes a character, this onChange will get called, and this variable will be updated. This is how you keep track of the values. So create an empty string for the name, and now we'll need two buttons for the user to add the profile picture and the banner image, which will be shown up in the profile page. So these two will be of the type file, and make sure you auto-import from dart.io. So file, and then we say profile image. Okay, we do the same thing, but for the banner image. Save it, and now we need to call up on the picker. The picker is from the package that we installed in the beginning of the lesson, from the image picker. So we say final picker equals to image picker. And don't forget, again, to auto-import it. Okay, then save it, and we have all of the variables that we'll need within this widget. So now we are going to firstly create the function which will call up on this image picker and actually let the user choose an image from the gallery or take a picture. So we do this by creating a function which will be of the type future, because we are expecting the user this call to return an image, but we are not sure when that's going to happen. And we are going to call it getImage. We are going to pass along an int called type. And we are doing this because we are going to use this function for both the banner and the profile image. And we have to know exactly which one is which. Otherwise, we would lose track of what we are updating. So this will be async open our open curly brackets, and we are going to say final picked file equals to, and now we are going to make a call which actually triggers the image fetching process. So it is picker dot get image, and now we can pass along the source. In this case, I'm going to say that the image source is camera, so that the user takes a picture and not grab something from the gallery, but we are able to then add more options for this. Okay, and then we are going to set state depending on if this is type 0 or type 1, which tells us if it is a profile image or the banner image, to whatever the value of this pick file is. So in this case, we are going to say if picked file different from null and type equals to 0, then this will be the profile image. And we then set the profile image to file within parentheses picked file dot path. This will create an object of the type file. It will get it from the path that's passed along through this, because this function only retrieves us the path of the image that we've just taken. So we must create a file from it. Then we are going to do exactly the same thing, but for the banner image. Banner image, and don't forget, change the type to 1. There we go. Now we have our function which will let us pick an image. We just need the buttons which will allow us to actually enter this function. So for this, we are going to use a flat button, which on pressed will simply do parentheses, arrow, get image, and now the type will be 0 because this will be for the profile image. Okay, then for the child, we are going to say that if the profile image is not null, so if profile image, if profile image equals to null, then, and we are going to use the question mark in here, which basically works as if then else, and by doing this, we can cleanly do this operation, which if the profile image is equal to null, we'll just show an icon. So icon and icons dot person, for example. But if the profile image is not null, which means that the user has picked an image, then we'll set it to something. In this case, we'll set it to the image.file profile image, comma, height. And we are going to set the height so that everything looks coherent at all times, equal to 100. Okay? And let's give some indentation to this, because it is hard to comprehend how it works like this. So image file, 100, file will be this one. Okay. Okay, then comma, and there we go. Now we have the onPressed will get the image. A child, if the profile image is equal to null, then set it to icon. If not, then set it to the image.file. Okay, so now let's come into our button, click it, and as you can see, we are able to take a picture. And because I'm using an emulator, it automatically renders something. So let's take a picture, save it, and it will show the picture in the button because this profile image won't be null anymore. Okay, so now let's double this up for the banner image. But instead of profile image in here, it will be banner image. Let's make this bigger, okay. The file will be banner image as well. And in the get image, we'll have to pass along 1. Okay, now we can take another picture, and if we click Alt, I believe we can move it. Yeah, we are able to move it. Take a picture, this time a bit different, and it shows up. It doesn't look all that great, but yeah, it works. That's what then that's what matters. Okay, so now let's add a button in order to allow the user to save the images and the information. For that, we are going to use the app bar, and the app bar will contain an action, which will be a button, a flat button in this case. So flat button, on pressed, it will be null for now, because we don't know exactly what we'll call when we have all the information that's needed. And the child will just be a simple text called save. Save that, and we get a nice app bar. So now we are ready to actually start writing some code to send this information to Firebase storage and to Firestore. Okay, so for this, we are going to come in here and search for services, and we are going to add yet another service, which will be called user.dart. And we are creating this because, well, it is different from auth, because for auth, you think about the user that's currently logged in and all the authentication actions. Now we need something for the user specifically. So getting a user and saving the information of the user, for example, in this case. So we'll need the class user service, open curly brackets, and there we go. Now we'll have a couple of functions in here for related to the user, but the one that we'll worry about right now is the update profile function. So future, because again, we don't know when this will be retrieved to us. It will be of the type void, because we aren't going to return any value specifically. And it will be called update profile. Open parentheses, make it async, because we are going to send some files to the storage, which always takes some time, and update the database, obviously. Okay, so in this case, what information will we need from it? Well, I'm going to collapse this and say that we are going to need the file of the type banner image, a file called profile image, and a string with the username. So that's how we are going to do it. And for the file, we must import dart.io. So I'm going to come in here and auto import it. It should be the second one. So let's see, and it is. Dart.io, that's the one that works for us, and that's the one that allows us to use the file object. Okay, so now how are we going to do this? We need to, first of all, upload the images and then save all the information to the database with those images URL. But we need to keep track of it, so we are going to write some pseudocode in here, and then we'll actually write a function which will allow us to save the images. So first of all, we need to keep track of the banner image URL. So banner image URL equals to nothing, an empty string. We also need to keep track of the profile image URL. And why do we need it? Well, because if the user hasn't uploaded an image or clicked here and taken a picture, we won't actually do anything with that value within the database. So that's something to keep in mind. And because otherwise we would be overriding something that shouldn't be overwritten, because if the user doesn't want to update the profile image, then the user shouldn't be obliged to. So in this case, if banner image different from null, then in here we are going to save the image to storage. As easy as that, and it is giving an error, okay, because this curly bracket shouldn't be in here. Now it will work. And add yet another at the end. Okay, that's a problem with curly brackets, nothing to worry about. Okay, so if the banner image is different from null, save it to storage, which we'll write in a second. If the profile image different from null, then save image to storage yet again. And when we do this, we are going to update the banner image URL inside of this if. Okay, so this way we can keep track of everything that's actually changed when the user comes in here. Now we are going to create a map. This map will be quite simple. It's just a string and an object called data equal to new hash map. Now we are going to place all of the information that we have, the name, the binary image URL, the profile image URL, into this map. And then we are going to save all of that to the database. This is the easiest way of uploading big amounts of data to the database without, when you don't know exactly what you are going to pass along. Because we aren't sure that we are going to pass along the binary image URL and the profile image URL. And how do we do it? Okay, if name different from null, from empty, better yet, name different from empty, then the data, and within brackets, we are going to say the name of the attribute that we are actually trying to pass along, which is name in this case, we'll say that it is equal to name. So if name is not empty, then add it to the hash map. And we are going to do the same thing for both the binary image URL and the profile image URL. So if binary image URL different from empty, then simply add it to the database, and the same thing for the profile image URL. If profile image URL different from empty, save it to the database. That's it. Now, all that we have left to do for this part is to actually save it to the database. And how do we do this? Well, we are going to use an update operation, which I don't believe we have used yet in this series. So we say Firebase Firestore instance dot collection users, and we have to do exactly the same thing that we did for the sign up in the beginning of the lesson. Then doc, we are going to say Firebase auth, because it is going to be for the currently logged in user, dot instance current user dot UID. And then we simply update with the data from the hash map, like so. And this is why it is so important for, in the sign up, to create an instance of the user within the database. Because if the documents that we are trying to update doesn't exist in the database, this will throw an error, because we are trying to make an update operation to something that doesn't exist. So you can't update something that doesn't exist. You have to create it first. So this should be all good and working. Now, onto the hard part, which is to save the image to the data, to the storage, better yet. For this, we are going to actually create yet another service file, which will be called utils. I always like to have a file called utils, which I just throw all the functions that are general to the app, to the project in this case, and don't really belong anywhere. So something to upload images to the storage and retrieve a URL is something that doesn't fit in the post, in the user, or in auth. So it must be in somewhere else, which I usually call utils. So this will be utils service, open curly brackets. And now we are going to start making use of the Firebase storage package that we installed in the beginning of the lesson. In this case, you say future void upload file, and it will get the file that we passed along from the user.dart, which will be an image, and the path to which we want to save the image to within Firebase storage path. Okay? Then this will be async. Obviously, again, we are making an upload. We are uploading something to a storage, so it will take some time. And we must import dart.io. So come in here and auto import it. Don't save. Okay, like so. And now we are going to import Firebase storage. So come in here, import, and within quotes say package Firebase storage, Firebase storage.dart as Firebase storage. Save it, and it will exist, but it will appear underlined because we aren't still using it. Okay, so enter the function, and now we are going to make use of this Firebase storage. So Firebase storage dot reference storage reference And this will create a reference with the path that we get from here. So let's come into here and go into storage. So in this case, the reference will be literally user, then profile, then the current user's logged in ID, and then banner or profile, depending on what if calls this function. So in this case, it will be equal to Firebase storage dot Firebase storage dot instance, and this looks pretty much similar to the database process when we want to save something, but instead of doc or collection, it is ref, because this is literally an URL. So in this case, we'll just pass along path. Okay, save it, and now we have our storage reference, and we are ready to use it to upload an image. Come down below, and we are going to start an upload process, or better yet, an upload task. So Firebase storage dot upload task, and this is a variable called upload task simply, equal to storage reference dot put file, and you can use a blob data. We are going to use a file because, well, that's exactly what we are passing. We are passing a file object from here, which has the image, obviously. So image, and save it. Now we have our upload task, and we are able to start the upload process and track the upload process using this upload task variable. So it is really handy, and we can get the information if there is an error, if the upload process finished, all of that. So now we say await upload task dot, and if you do dot, you can see all of the functions that you get from here. Now we are going to call when complete. So when complete, we are going to return absolutely nothing. We are going to simply get the return URL. Return URL, which will be empty. So this function will be called whenever the upload task has finished, and then we must retrieve the URL from this operation. So in this case, we are going to say await storage reference get download URL. So we are going into the storage reference and making a request to get the download URL from the image that was just uploaded to the storage. Then, with the file URL that we get from this request, we are going to open a parenthesis, curly brackets, okay, like so. We are going to say that the return URL will be equal to file URL. Okay, and we are saying return URL. So by getting the file URL, we are actually getting the absolute path to the file that we just uploaded. And like so, we are able to actually save this to the database and make it easy on us. So now we are able to make that call in these two ifs. First of all, obviously, we need to import the service. So utils. And for some reason, it isn't detecting it. So I'll have to place the import by hand. Let's first of all finish writing this up. Utils service. Okay, and sometimes VS Code doesn't detect the package automatically or the file automatically, so you must import it by hand. And right now we do this by saying package, then Twitter, services, and then utils.darts. And now it will work. Okay, so now we are able to actually use this util service. So let's come down below and say in the save the image to storage for the banner image, we are going to simply do banner image URL equals to util service, or better yet, this will be an await function because this function is async. Util services service dot upload file, and we must pass along both an image, the file, and a path. In this case, it will be banner image, I believe so. Yeah, banner image. And for the path, we must do what we have in here. So in this case, it is user, profile, the user's ID, and all of that. So we say user, profile, and now we have to pass along a string in the middle of our string, and we can easily do this by saying $, and then curly brackets. So everything looks a bit cleaner. In this case, it will be Firebase auth dot instance dot current user dot UID. And then we are able to continue. And in the case of this file, it will be called banner. This will be the last one in the tree that we have. So it will be banner and profile, and this will be the name of the file. Okay, add the semicolon at the end, and it will automatically clear up everything. And it is giving an error. Well, it is saying that it is void. Oh, okay. In here, it isn't void. It is of the type string because we are actually returning a string. And that's it. Now we can do the same thing for the profile image, changing the names accordingly. So profile, and in here, profile. Profile, better yet, profile image. Okay, so now let's try and save this. I'm going to quickly go back in, take a picture, take yet another picture, but from another angle. That's it. And now subscribe to SimCoder will be the name of the user. And oops, I forgot one thing, which is to actually make the call in the save button. So that's what we have to do before making any calls whatsoever. Let's come into the edit page. And in here, we are going to simply make a call to the user service before anything else. So first of all, let's create an instance of the user service. User service, and yet again, it isn't detecting it, so we'll have to do that by hand. User service. Okay, save that and import the package. If you are able to automatically import it, then great. Package Twitter services and user.starts. There we go. And this is not correctly written. Like so. Now we are going to go down below into our app bar, and on pressed, instead of null, it will have something. In this case, it will make a call to the function that we just created, and then pop the navigator stack so that we can go back to the previous page. So in this case, it will be await user service dot update profile, and it will be banner image, profile image, and name. Save that, and obviously this must be a sync. Save this and come down below and simply pop the navigator stack. Dot pop context. Like so. Okay, so now we should be able to actually click on save. So let's do it and see if everything checks out. And it's saved. So finally, it will take some time. Let's come in here. And yeah, well, we have just the banner image URL, but it changed and now we have the URL. So let's see if at least this works. So let's grab the link, come in here, and yeah, the image shows up. And if we come into the storage, let's come in here, open the profile, user. Let's try and see if it's this one. No, it's the other one. Okay, so it is uploading the images, but it isn't saving to the storage because both of them have both the banner and the profile, and I believe it was this one. Yeah, it was this one. But it isn't saving to the database, both of them. It is just saving one. So let's try and figure out what happens. If we come in here, go into user, And well, I see the problem right away. It is that we don't have the profile image URL in here. It is just the banner image. But so it was calling this function, but obviously it was overriding the banner image URL and making it useless in the first if. So now I'm going to upload everything once again, and I'll be right back. Okay, so it uploaded. Let's come in here, and we get the profile image URL again, which is great. So everything is working nicely. The name changed to like this video, which if you didn't, then you should. And that's it. We are able to update the profile and to make sure everything works nicely. Now all that's left is to actually show the profile in here. So thank you all so much for watching. We are now able to have a user's information, which is always useful and nice to show so that we know what we are looking at, which profile we are looking at. So in the next lesson, we'll learn how to search for users, which is also important. And because we now have the information of the user, everything becomes a lot better and easier on the eye. So yeah, if you like this video, then please do like and subscribe. I hope to see you again tomorrow. Ciao!